Welcome back to Express News Sports College Hoops Countdown here on KCWX. Tonight, we're dipping back into the Big 12. Big game tonight for two teams that probably don't care a whole lot for each other. Oklahoma State visiting Oklahoma. And Richard, first let's start with the Cowboys coming off a huge win against Texas, led by the smallest guy on the floor in that last one, Keaton Page.
Well, Keaton Page, I tell you, just a water bug on the court for Oklahoma State. And in that ball game, the highest point total in the Big 12 this year, hits his 40 mark in that ball game. And you know, Chuck, I look at this Oklahoma State team. It's probably the biggest enigma in the Big 12 this year. They come in and night out. It wasn't that long ago we were talking about Travis Ford and under major fire as a guy that had to get some things done. He just hasn't fulfilled expectations on so many levels. But here they come up against an Oklahoma team, and Oklahoma State now is a team that might cause some trouble in the tournament and maybe one of those spoilers at least down the stretch.
Well, they've proven that they can play really well at home. And I think to your point about Ford, it looks like he can coach. The recruiting thing he probably still needs to work on at this point. But they've got some young players. And LaBryan Nash is as electric and as talented as any freshman that this conference has to offer. And I think we're going to see a whole lot of him tonight in this ball game.
We are. And you know, in Oklahoma State, one of the things we talked about, you talk about LaBryan Nash, you talk about Keaton Page, Markel Brown. You know, you can identify 4 or 5 guys, and that's all Oklahoma State's going to bring to you. There's been games where they've only played 6 or 7 guys in ball games, no depth, not a whole lot of strength under the basket, and time and again in these ball games, they've got to make some things happen with guys like Keaton, you know, who are going to be able to kind of dart and make some things happen in the paint. But, you know, you look at Oklahoma State, you know, and we've talked about it time and again, mojo, teams that just kind of find themselves late in a season. You know, I think Oklahoma State may be one of those teams. And here they go up against an Oklahoma team. It's a rivalry. Throw out the records. It's going to be Oklahoma State against Oklahoma, football, basketball, baseball, you name it. These teams don't like each other. That's going to play a major factor, I think, in this ball game.
And maybe they learned something about themselves in that last game. Maybe they do need Keaton Page to be more of the guy scoring the ball and trying to wreak havoc with what he does instead of just, you know, standing up there at the point and distributing the ball. I mean, maybe he's got to be more aggressive in order for them to be more successful.
Well, and I think tonight's going to be a great watermark game. I mean, you know, let's talk about Oklahoma for a second. You know, we talked about Travis Ford. Here's Lon Kruger, a guy who's got a great pedigree. He comes into Oklahoma, and they're awful. I mean, they just got walloped by Iowa State. I mean, you know, and we've talked about the particular players on the Oklahoma team that you have to watch every week. Stephen Pledger, Sam Grooms. They've got some athletes as well. But that's a team that just has never meshed. And now I think we talk about mojo on the Oklahoma State side, the fact that they're playing pretty good basketball now. Late in the season, Oklahoma's gone the completely different way. This is a team that just has not found itself all year.
No, you're absolutely right. Started the year 10-2. Grooms was saying, hey, we thought we were one of the best teams in the country. Then they start conference play. Now all of a sudden they're at 500 overall, absolutely languishing in the Big 12. But I think, you know, they just rely too much on their guard play. They've got to start getting something inside.
Yeah, they really have to. And, you know, this game tonight, it's interesting. I don't know if they'll get something inside tonight, per se, because this is going to be all about the guards. I mean, we talk about Keaton Page, you talk about Sam Grooms. The quickest guards of the Big 12 possibly are going to be on the court tonight. That's going to be the most fun matchup, is watching those guys play. But you're right, it may well be decided under the basket by a player that we don't even talk about today.
All righty, we are back with some keys to victory right after this. All righty, Richard, keys to victory. First, let's start with Oklahoma State. That is sponsored by North Star Dodge Chrysler Jeep.
Well, Chuck, you brought it up earlier. It's a rivalry game, Oklahoma against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State has got to bring the requisite energy to Oklahoma. They got to forget about the crowd and make some things happen. And you know what? The Cowboys have to ride the hot horse. Keep giving the ball to Keaton Page. Had a big game against Texas. Here's another big game for him.
West Loop Mitsubishi has Oklahoma.
Well, Oklahoma, the same thing. They've got to ride their crowd against an Oklahoma State team that's coming in very hot. And you know what, Oklahoma, go after your guards. Let Grooms and Pledger make something happen tonight.
OSU OU next here on KCWX.